a talk. So that's Sunday when I am away. So just keep looking at our newsletters and so forth as they come out, and those details will be forthcoming. I won't take any more of your time. I'll invite Geshe down. Please grab a cup of tea or coffee, and we'll get started in 1 or 2 minutes.
I think there's a little bit more we can say about Geshe Khenpo Pema. The talk will be on the Sakya view of Madhyamaka philosophy, and then Geshe will give a companion presentation on the Gelugpa view of Madhyamaka philosophy. So there are some differences, and so understanding these differences will help us to refine our own understanding. So that was a suggestion made in a chat after one of our Sunday mornings here. It wouldn't be nice to sort out the some of the polemical statements actually, contradicting various viewpoints, so that we could get a better understanding. So that's what Khenpo Pema will be doing.
Sorry, we have some visitors, so I'm just passing out the prayer booklets. So can everybody hear me clearly?
Good enough.
And what about Geshe?
Yep.
Can you hear Geshe as well? All right, let us get started then.
Yes, sir.
What would you say?
So
first of all, Tashidele greetings, and Geshe hopes that everybody is well and happy. So why we're gathered here today, it has to do with happiness. But if we think about our momentary samsaric happiness, the happiness of cyclic existence, just achieving merely that is not enough. If we really think about the welfare of the self, that we call the I, it is not enough. So, of course, this life is very important. This life is something that is very important because, of course, if we don't have things in place correctly here, then there is a danger, right, that we don't have the facility for practice. Just want to check something. Yes, okay.
Say, Kedripla, I wonder if Geshe's mic is unmuted.
Is his mic unmuted?
I think we're picking up him from your mic.
Both 1 and 2 are showing.
Oh, because it's very echoey and not as loud.
Huh? Oh, both of them.
Okay,
like
yeah, I can hear, yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. It just seems like there's a lot of echo. Like it's picking up from elsewhere. But no, that's definitely
Want
on.
me to change the settings?
No, it's definitely on. Okay, so maybe that's okay. Clearly it is on, so I guess we'll just leave it.
Just turning down some.
It might be turning, yeah. So Deanna's suggesting turning down the mic level a little bit. So
Turning
we'll do
it
that.
down. I wouldn't have thought that would be the thing to do.
The other way, right? So
Oh,
how
that's
is
better.
that?
Maybe that's a little better. Yeah.
Is that a little better? Okay. Yeah, I don't want people's
And now
ears
it's-
to be burning. Hi.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Is that good?
Part of you intro.
Okay, all right. No, that's fine. It's good to sort those things out at the beginning. Sorry. Sorry about that. Always a source of amusement, Kedrip scrambling around. What can I say? So, of course, if we think about our future situation, we should know that if we are able to engage with it well, there is a path that is going to lead us to everything we need. So we can think of, because of the merits of our previous lifetimes, we have a rebirth now, which is favorable, which is a little bit like getting halfway up the mountain if we're trying to reach its summit. So what's the destination at the summit of this mountain like? We can think of this destination of a place where there is only stable happiness, which is completely untouched by suffering. So we've gotten halfway up the mountain. Does that mean that our position halfway up the mountain is something secure or stable? No, it's not secure or stable. So we're a human being. We are halfway up the summit, but our situation is not stable. And that doesn't matter who we are, whether like a relatively simple person or the president, the prime minister, a king or a queen. No matter what our position is, it is something that is unstable. So we need to have this understanding that this obsession, this fixation with only securing samsaric happiness, this is not suitable for a spiritual practitioner. We need to aim at least somewhat towards that stable ultimate happiness. So how do we achieve this real and lasting happiness? That's the next part of the puzzle. It is not mainly through outer conditions. It is through cultivating inner conditions or qualities. Those are the main causes of that lasting happiness. So we need joyous effort as we embark on this journey of developing these positive mental qualities that are the causes of happiness. Why is this the case? Because of our lack of familiarity with those positive states of mind. When we first try to cultivate them, when we first bring them forth, there will be some resistance, some difficulty.
다 뚜빠패드 마토나요. 초아 템보스 프게세 레차소나. 다 가디이나 다 야기보게 돈에 로야지레 마도 갈레칸 로야. 네츠 마레스 요아레스.
So once, however, we achieve realization of these positive mental qualities, then that momentum is established and we start to be able to proceed to cultivate very happily without that previous difficulty we mentioned.
다 코알 데비칼라요 기보. 어네 다 텔레티니 칼레칼레 코타다야. 타바야 쇼를 로토 로그로바스.
So once we start to bring forth those realizations, we will be happier within samsara, and we will be able to go from happy rebirth to happy rebirth, from happy state to happy state, all the way until liberation or moksha.
다 텔레타라 리세 샤와진도 레레 그거지 다 들은 거 중에.
So in order to be able to do that, though, we need to start with a body and mind that are peaceful, calm, at ease. So let us take a moment to cultivate that.
로바 강가 가사 갈타 저기 주사 메바 타근 좀 벌릴 저디 할때 강가 바로 마치네. 이제 넘어시바라 봐. 담바지 저기 소마도.
Iki nambashe bala tumba kare tembo se.
세라바 강가 시터 아멜 아타바.
So think just like sort of breathing ha on a mirror, the way that condensation dissolves into a single point. Think in the same way our coarser minds that are so busy, that are interacting with thoughts and things of the world, the external world, as well as memories and so forth, that these slowly pull back into a state of stillness, which is the subtle mind. So those coarser consciousnesses dissolve into the subtle consciousness.
노도도 초와도 강가 세코를 파터 잡아 이자 컨트롤 연매야 이자다. 저기 주사 메바라고 다 레레 쇼와쇼소.
Because those discursive thoughts, because all of those many feelings that we experience sort of dissolve, then this kind of pinpointable essence, that seeming solidity of things, this appearance begins to dissolve as well.
현지 조이지 nomba시바세 돼야돼. 아니 rum저게 싸와. 다리 할레베타니 리 야보여 바니바 첨보여 바자 첨보지 송.
So as those are dissolved into this main consciousness, then we are able to discern the mind's natural state. The mind's natural state of pure luminosity, its clarity and knowingness. We see that it is something that allows us to cultivate the positive.
대대돈 메일리테 자치모 되니 냥도 요비 리텔라. 요보카르 저바이나이다 저토바지.
With this human body and this human mind together, if we set ourselves a wish to be able to achieve a particular quality or realization, we can definitely achieve it.
우제 우줄 편바 타주 저터야 타 버스 좀 싫어 버스 좀 강가 저터리 네 니바요 바지
I have the power, the potential to be able to bring both benefit to myself as well as others through the cultivation, the perfecting of the practices of both method and wisdom.
리코가 자 친구 아니 샤와야 버티고 다 치니까 마찬가지 땜보치기 소마지
Having this good opportunity, then I will be sure to engage in the kind of activities that will allow me to maximize
네서 가와다 이나요 드리 롱가 쇼로 터야 돼 가와서 뭐 엄마세 대도 되마 다 야보시소 소마로
it. Anywhere we look, we see how rare and precious this opportunity is, thinking how wonderful it is that I am able to travel, to traverse a meaningful path, develop an awareness of your good fortune.
소마 누지다 샤와야 보지 저 터야지 소마 제치도 다요 소마지
In order to be able to achieve these goals just as we wished, we will make single-pointed, heartfelt requests to the holy beings. Dave, could you guys hear the chime or not? Yes? No? All right. Maybe that's a good thing, because I think that setting where you can hear it is maybe the reason why Geshe's voice was so loud. Anyways, do you want me to change it to musician settings, or what should I do? Okay. Just...
시범데
No. Oh, the original sound for musicians is on. So you should have heard that, actually. That's a bit odd. Anyways, we'll leave it for now and we'll fiddle around with it later.
Okay. Thank you.
아닌데 야본에서
Yeah. So, tumba chomdende tema chiksum.
의자다 가리라
Shirabning borwa.
아 템버전은 데스 주보선 템버선
So we're going to recite the praise to Shakyamuni Buddha first at a good pace, Geshe said, in Tibetan, and then we'll do the Heart Sutra in English. So we begin at the first page, folks who are here. Tumba chomdende deshin shepa drachomba yandaba zobe sanje reba dang shaksu demba dewa sheba jiden chemba chebu deve kalo jurwa lana meba ladam mi namgi tumba sangye chomdende pejawa shakya tubala chazelo chede kyabsu chi ho Dönba chomdende deje sheba drachomba yandaba zobe sanje reba dang shabsu demba dewa sheba shiden chemba chebu deve kalo jurwa lana meba ladami namgi dönba sanje chomdende pejawa shakya tubala chazelo chede kyabsu chi ho Dönba chomdende dejen sheba drachomba yandaba zobe sangye reba dang shabsu demba dewa sheba jiden kemba chebu dewe kalo gyurwa lana meba ladam mi namgi dönba sangye chomdende bejawa shakya tubala chazelo chede kyabsu chi. So we'll go to page 8. We'll begin with the praise to the perfection of wisdom in Tibetan, and then we'll recite the sutra itself in English. Mazam jimi shira paru chi machi mimba namke ngowo ni sozo rangri yeshi chuyu wa dusun kyawe yomla chause lo. I prostrate to the three noble, rare, sublime ones. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on Mass of Vultures Mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharadvatiputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon this correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the endpoint of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared: Taya ta gate gate para samgate bodhi swaha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. So the prayer to the lion-faced Dakini we'll do in Tibetan. Kala jebi nejo damba ne nganse zuzhu ngawe tuto chen juba ma ye bujin ji nisum kanjo isula chausa lo akat samara sashara samara akat samara sashara samara akat samara samara Akatamara Samaraya Tayata Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Swaha Paba Kunshu Sungi Dempe Togi Chi Dopa Jochi Mepa Jochi Shiwa Jochi Jage Bachi Mitumpe Chongyemba Tamchi Kuruye Soha geri donja gyaju jewa dan mi de nebe gendang jewa dan dumba drujin bunzum sojo be jashi de gyan den de le sho. So do a short mandala offering. So ji peki joshi medo jam rija blingji nidi gembadi sangye jindum dime bowagi joko namda jinla cheba sho idam guru ratna mendala kam niryatayami. 23 Refuge and Bodhicitta. Chidam sogi chunam lai jangchu bardu dani gyabsu chi dagi chenyen gibe sunam ge jola penjir sangi dropa sho. Chidam sogi chunam lai jangchu bardu dani gyabsu chi dagi chenyen gibe sunam ge jola penjir sangi dropa sho. Chudam sogi chunam lai jangcho bardu dani gyabsu chi dagi chenyen gibe sunam gi jola penjir sangye dropa sho.
뭐야, 다 치트바 개와드바 가디나 샤와니 도다니 샤와니 가침바 어떻게 알았어?
So whenever one engages in something virtuous, whenever one engages in the practice of the Dharma, then as always, the activities at the beginning and the end are important.
손지가더니 라자 쳔보지라더니 나졸 퍼게 초알리라워지다 세노데미 메이소마 노정도 세아데 세노 쳔보 요도 마요 어느 개와
So one of the pieces of advice that was spoken by the Buddha in the sutras is that one who is endowed with great merit is able to accomplish their aims and wishes exactly as they set out. And whether or not we come to possess great merit or not, this depends upon our engagement, upon our accumulation of virtue.
세계에 대두바시에 다 가침보 자 침보는 침보랬더니 델로바시 그다 니바야 보모보지 그거 알았어.
So of course, ultimately what we're trying to do is to bring forth these positive mental qualities. But in order to be successful in that, then we need many things in place which allow us to utilize our potential.
어단 짓은 요 메뉴가 라마선 가팔 어다 가르세가 로조도다 고지보고 보게 So one of
the advices that the Buddha of Wisdom Manjushri gave to Lama Tsongkhapa was that, yes, meditation is what gets us there, but just starting out on meditation is not enough. One must engage in the practices of accumulation of merits and purification of negativities. So once we accomplish some progress in the practices of accumulation and purification, not only will we experience a happier, more stable mind, we'll also more easily be able to bring forth that wish for realization.
어다 개자 못하려 가서 어다 들리지 이사 당아로서 단답받아 셔와 도마매반 깔레 먹어자요 아래 너는 안개와 먹어줘도 돼요 와서 소소 짜지 뭐이다 소소 집어 소소가 니 집어 넣어서는 돈 내가 제대로 안 했어.
So going back to this form that we have now, we realize that this form, with all of its advantages, only comes about due to the hard work that we put into engaging in what is virtuous from countless lifetimes until the present. But if we use this rebirth only to benefit ourselves or only to benefit the people that we like, that are close to us, we're not really utilizing it fully. So one holy being, when he made prostrations to the Buddha, he reflected on this, that, in the beginning, the Buddha was just like myself, a human being. but somehow he brought forth effort to develop his positive mental qualities and to achieve that ultimate realization. That is what he accomplished with a human rebirth, yet I am still here. So he had this reflection as he made the prostration. So it's really important to understand that the Buddha or Venerable Tara or any other enlightened being that we can think of, they started out as an ordinary being just like us. They achieved enlightenment through the subduing, the transformation of their mind. So then, connected with that, let us bring forth as vast a motivation as possible. Thank you for the reasons that were mentioned. So place the body and mind in a state of stillness. So first, with this quiet mind, just notice how the nature of the mind is something neutral, and touching that neutrality, that equanimity, just feel relaxed and peaceful. From touching and holding this equanimity, then the mind becomes peaceful. The four elements become in balance, which leads to this relaxed feeling. Think, touching this mind, I am going to activate its potential so that it can become vaster, more powerful. Then bring your awareness beyond yourself, beyond those close to you, and try to contemplate all beings. Think about their sameness from the perspective that every single one wishes for even the smallest happiness, and every single one doesn't want to experience even the slightest suffering. Think that because we share these same fundamental wishes, all these beings are actually very similar to me. Therefore, they are close to me. So gaze upon them with a feeling of loving affection. I want to be able to bring all of them to that freedom from suffering, to that wished for happiness. Therefore, in order to do that, I must achieve Buddhahood, bring forth bodhicitta.
더 용화는 바치시키 조지되는 다 마리바세야 돼. 마리바는 코로가 돼. 요 말에 강가루지 잡아도 요 말에 어다 뒤에서 된데도 더 그래. 소말.
The only thing really ultimately that is blocking me from this realization is this mind of ignorance. This mind of ignorance is a fundamental misconception that things exist inherently in the way that they appear. Because it is a misconception, I can definitely clear it away. So we'll pause there.
뭐다 소소소로주 여보지 템보체는 냐마샤와 노지다 시라드 고치 셰소나 그래 그 마리빌라가 베틀라로.
So if we are able to bring forth that wisdom in our mind like the sunshine, then naturally the fog of ignorance is going to be completely dissipated.
어다 때요 어다 들진데 와스 데먹이 세제 강가 짜친 버리 강가 이더 공어래 강가 여버리 솜바 더가롱기 세테 봐 쟤네 너도 두자 매봐 강가 정화송 좀 해라.
Similarly, seeing all sentient beings as precious, as close to us, as worthy of benefiting, just thinking that clears away so much kind of negativity, suspicion, and doubt.
난저 기보 매봐 소소소 기보 매봐 소소가 저기 와서 와 인데 지래 오면데 내서 지래 너도 뭐 사다 소소가 좀
And you know, so much of our happiness is based upon that unskillful relationship with other beings, thinking he or she did this to me, he or she is planning this, they will do this, they have done that, right? This leads to so much suffering.
다 롱 진짜 주주 어주자 예 진짜 예 선바테 포게테 더다 말라나 콜 데비깔아 기보 문디다 그래서 제모시 와라 전준이 알아.
So Shantideva actually says in the Bodhisattvacaryāvatāra that as long as we remain with this self-cherishing or self-centered attitude and do not bring forth an appreciation of others, a cherishing of others, while within samsara we will go from misery to misery.
다 들으시는데 다 단계 라반 노지 소마 노지 다 손지주 공부도 발라다 조조데 조주기 세라 다 이제 조어들레스.
So as we mentioned, wishing to achieve the state of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, complete and perfect Buddhahood, then one of the causes that we need to cultivate is bodhicitta.
다 텔포게 용화라 다 레거지 예토네 다 레거니 발레디아레스.
And so this text of the Bodhisattvacaryāvatāra helps us to develop that. It is a text which is divided into 10 chapters, and currently we are beginning chapter number 2.
슐로카레레 만데트네 페고자그 아레 소소티시 요비칼라 가제토 페엔도 사와레스.
So really, So having concluded the first chapter, which is the benefits of bodhicitta, Geshe said, ideally, right, this is something that you would go over a few shlokas, a few verses of this every day, contemplate it deeply until you become convinced of those benefits. So we look at His Holiness the Dalai Lama and many other holy and qualified spiritual teachers, and you see that in their teachings, so much of what they share is the shlokas, the verses of the Bodhisattvacaryāvatāra, so that we can hear them again and again and wish to implement them. So, we might not have a lot of time, but even if we only have a little bit of time, if we identify the points within the text that are, relevant, important for us, and think about them again and again, we can definitely come to some progress. So, the title of chapter number 2, so we're on page 5 in the Bachelor translation, he gives this as disclosure of evil. I would rather say, I just told Geshe, I just want to, I would rather say laying bare unwholesome deeds. Laying bare or confessing unwholesome deeds. I feel that's more the spirit of what the Tibetans say. So, however, Geshe is saying that this title is a little bit deceptive because actually, in terms of the subject, the object to be explained of this chapter, it isn't only confessing negativities. Actually, all the 7-point or limbed practices are contained here. So those offerings such as so those limbs such as prostration, offering, and a lot also about going for refuge, bringing forth the mind of awakening, and so forth. You find a discussion of all of these in this chapter. So also for those of you who are practitioners of Tantra, remember that the equivalent of the 7-branch or limbed practice that we find in Sutra is known as the 7 purities in Tantric sadhanas. And the 7 purities actually share a lot of elements with the 7 branches, but there are a couple of differences and different ways of counting. So the difference is that in the tantric presentation of the 7 purities, you don't find the limb of requesting to turn the wheel of Dharma, nor do you find the limb of requesting not to pass into nirvana. So what's the reason for that? Why do you not see the request to turn the wheel or the request not to pass away in the tantric presentation? The reason is because in the tantric sadhanas, we are mainly relating to the longku, the sambhogakaya or enjoyment body form of the deity. And so that form is kind of beyond death, for example. So the sambhogakaya abides, right, without wavering, not in personal nirvana, but for the benefit of sentient beings, until every last sentient being is enlightened, this sambhogakaya enjoyment body abides. And so actually, our Nganso Sangyedu, the first body of a Buddha that any being achieves upon their enlightenment is this sambhogakaya form. And so before Buddha Shakyamuni came into this world, actually, he was said to be abiding in a sambhogakaya form. But because the Buddha's Nirmanakaya, the supreme Nirmanakaya or emanation body, is what came into the world, right, to relate with beings rather than the Sambhogakaya. That's why we see Buddha Shakyamuni manifesting passing away into paranirvana, for example.
다 코로 롱코 코라요 가디나 데데데와레 데바존도 마제타니 테바치비타니 치유 가디나 고수니 데기 이사 코로킬레레스.
So there's also not a need to request the turning of the Dharma wheel because, as we said, the Sambhogakaya is continuously abiding, and a natural consequence of it abiding is that it is continually teaching the Dharma, that those two just go together.
어다데이다 치수루치사 양겔레 만데바 주루치사 그거 예니메지 그거 야마르시라레스.
So to the Sambhogakaya form, we don't need to make the request to turn the Dharma wheel, nor do we need to make the request not to pass away into nirvana.
어다가 토레 nga 지바레스. 나이 토레 연도 아니데 샹도도 세셰니데 판네베자비 드노나세레스.
So Kyamdro dang dinso ni mepaso dene Kyamdro semke. So in the tantric presentation of these 7 purities, we take away 2 of those 7 branches, the request to turn the wheel, request not to pass away, and we replace these with refuge and bodhicitta.
어다데레 리스와 다이나 응아가 노래 초초르가 레도 레그레스.
Ale.
유카전은 용거레스. 다이나 코퍼스 초바레 마도 나르데 어다
Kopus and Soba hopes. Didn't finish his sentence.
Okay.
Sorry. Oops. So you won't find, you will find some tantric texts that mention the request not to pass away in the turning of the Dharma wheel. Many will not have it, some do, but this is rather for a sense of completion instead of a necessity. But you will also see many tantric texts that do not have them.
But
because out of all of the various subjects that are mentioned in chapter 2, the confession of negativities is so very important. The confession or laying bare of the unwholesome is the title of the chapter. So think about the importance of purifying the negativities, even for great beings. If we think, for example, of Arya Asanga's brother, Vasubandhu, right? Asanga was able to see Maitreya. Vasubandhu wanted his brother to take him so that he could see Maitreya as well. But Maitreya said that because of the heavy negativity Vasubandhu had accumulated in the earlier part of his life, he would need to engage in some purification, and then next lifetime, he would be able to see him. Whereas Arya Asanga, on the other hand, right, he saw a being, a dog, in terrible suffering. And because of the unbearable kind of compassion that he brought forth, there was a tremendous purification. And in that moment, he was able to perceive Maitreya directly. So, we need to remember those stories and the reasons behind them, and this will benefit our understanding. So Geshe said that also, these are stories, but they're not stories in the sense of fantasies, right? But these are historical accounts. So we can see them like that. And there's another account which Geshe is remembering. He's not sure if the story is about pilgrims from Amdo or from Kham, but pilgrims from Amdo or Kham, they would also often come to Lhasa to see the Jo image, the image of Shakyamuni Buddha in the central cathedral.
So
one of the pilgrims actually was not able to see the statue in the Jokang, and so he was disturbed. And Geshe doesn't remember if it was Ling Rinpoche or Trijang Rinpoche, but one of those two, he asked them, why is it that I can't see the statue? And the Lama told them that they should purify negativities. So he started to engage in purification, and the first step was that he was not able to perceive the Buddha image, but he was able to perceive the butter lamps that were made as offerings in front of it.
다 띵디바지 단독이
So now we will turn to the discussion of the actual text. So we are on chapter 2, and that is on page 5 in the Bachelor translation.
뭐야 당연히 저기 세계 배에 먹은 데시 자차와 이자 근데 뭐치겠어요 리치 세대 중앙 샤이셔 대지셔바노도 동비치 깨져 저마메도 손지세 에데 자손노라 레바체.
In order to seize that precious mind, I offer now to the Tathagatas, to the sacred Dharma, the stainless jewel, and the sons of Buddha, the oceans of excellence.
어다 깨졌을 제발 다 내일 제발 고치고 왔어 깨졌을 나차 제발 비기 세비하스 된다 깨졌어 뭐였나.
So if we want to clarify this, basically what this verse is talking about is making offerings to the three sublime jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha.
깨졌을 제발 비기야 이제 가리 세나 나를 rum보치다 전부도 다 전주지 세대 그것도.
So why do we need to make offerings to the triple gem? Because we want to be able to secure the jewel-like mind of bodhicitta.
전주지 세세 지레바 이나 소소기고 소소로 야야가 모두 돈도 되나 감각기고서 토는데 된다 되세요.
If I am able to actualize bodhicitta, then not only have I secured my own happiness, but I am capable of bringing happiness to all the beings that I connect with, humans, animals, and so forth. Yeah, so Geshe said that it's very clear in order to seize that precious mind, right? That's why we're making the offerings, and that precious mind is bodhicitta. So I offer now to the Tathagatas, so we can think of the Tathagatas as the Buddhas of the 3 times, the past, present, and future. To the sacred Dharma, the stainless jewel. So this is the jewel of the teachings. So remember that when we speak of the Dharma jewel or the jewel of the teachings, we talk about the Dharma of scripture and the Dharma of realization. So we are offering these to both the Dharma of scripture and of realization in their stainless form. They are stainless jewels. Sons of the Buddha, we could say children of the Buddha. It's ambiguous. Maybe better to say children of the Buddha. We can think of these as the Bodhisattvas. So because these are like an ocean of positive qualities and excellence, we make offerings to them. So what sort of offerings might one make? We discuss this as we go to the next verse. So we'll go verses 2 and 3 first. There's a lot of verses about the offering, but we'll go 2 and 3 first. Whatever flowers and fruits there are, and whatever kinds of medicine, whatever jewels exist in this world, and whatever clean, refreshing waters. Likewise, gem-encrusted mountains, forest groves, quiet and joyful places, heavenly trees bedecked with flowers, and trees with fruit-laden branches. So any sort of tantric sadhana that you look at, for example, of Avalokiteshvara or Aryatara, you will see those mantras for making the offerings, Argam, Pajam, Pupe, Dupe, and so forth, right? These kind of exemplify what we're talking about here.
어느 로모도 지바.
Romosana she tangiti ja roa. So how do we describe those 7 or 8 offerings, depending if we add the last one, that we make with those mantras in the sadhana? These are known as the offerings of the 2 waters, the 5 actual offerings, and music. So the 2 waters, the 5 actual offerings, and music.
다 자갈라서 멋진 버르지 소소 놀게 또 이가라. 다 대노지 지네다 그러게 가르쳐가리.
Pugire.
피기 알아봤어. 대노지 손재고 어는 지대 먹을 로도도 탐바지네. 다 제바티 비스리와스.
So offering these 7 or 8 things goes back to the customs of ancient India. When you had an important guest in your home, you would offer him these things or her these things. And so this is really kind of taking that cultural expression of generosity to the guest as the basis of the different offerings.
다 뒤눈에 때네 다 그렇지. 너는 제바이나에 제바더니 다 근데레이나에 다 그렇실라 배야 쪼대 네스가테레스 바바가티.
And so out of the 2 waters, the 5 main offerings, and the music, the 5 main offerings, these 5 are considered the most important. And so we see those mentioned here. In fact, the first thing that is mentioned is flowers. So this is one of the 5 main offerings. Right. And because of the conditions in Tibet, not always flowers available as a sort of substitute for flowers, Tibetans offer this kata, right? The long prayer scarf. So that has the same meaning as offering a flower garland. So this goes beyond just those offerings, and it talks about not only offering flowers and fruits, so food, but also offering medicine, beautiful jewels and precious substances that one sees in the world, as well as the different kinds of water. So, sorry, Geshe said not any kind of water. It has to be clean, pure water that we offer. So Lord Atisha praised the water of Tibet as being exceptionally pure and sweet tasting. And so he really encouraged beings there to make offerings with water. Ale, chusumpati. So for example, when you have the set of the 7 or 8 offering bowls, ideally, right, in one of those bowls, you would put flowers, but because those were not always available, there is water in another bowl. So you may have 3 bowls filled with water. And also, you'll also notice in the offerings that some of the other bowls, for example, the ones that should be filled with fruit or with different kinds of food, for example, these also have water within them. So why is there this custom of offering water? Because water was plentiful in Tibet, and if people offered water in all of these bowls, they could make the offerings without miserliness. So the first, if we have these 3 bowls of water, we said one of those 3, the last one, is a substitute for the flowers. And then the first 2 are water to chik kalapuya, chik subalapuya. Are waters to refresh the mouth, and also water to sprinkle on, and also to sprinkle or refresh the feet. Yeah, so Geshe said some people say to refresh the body, some people say to refresh the feet. There's different ways of explaining. And so we come to verse number 4.
说个是吧？这位，
jiba.
他说啥对吧？
Yep.
他说你电脑用这种的，比如80许多的机器，慢慢出比老多，弄把都人用千万个比钱弄，错都只有表面钱把都，我把现在给你用的。
Fragrances of the celestial realms, incense, wishing trees, and jewel trees, uncultivated harvests, and all ornaments that are worthy to be offered.
他第一节的说了个干净的，说的这嘞。
Jing drona so nga tets dro so shake da wachi tamo.
这位，他第一节的前面几年中啊，前面几。
Fragrances of celestial realms, incense, and so forth. So in these last couple of verses, we've actually been talking about the actual substances of offerings. Ngadi logoreta, sodang zibu yang zera. Lomaso. Yeah. So sorry, we'll go to 5. Lakes and pools adorned with lotuses and the beautiful cry of wild geese, everything unowned within the limitless spheres of space. So from number 2 to verse number 5, this is expressing all of the actual substances of offering. Yeah. So Geshe said it's, you could say you could say it's like 3.5 to 4 verses. Okay. Yeah, so 3.5 to 4 verses anyway. So the next verse, Loi Langne, Namka Rabjam. So yes, so number I see. Tahakosong. So from the second half of verse number 5 through to the end of verse number 6, it is the pul sul. So this is the way of offering. So we talked about the substances, now the way to offer. Yeah. So it's 1.5 verses. So we'll read those together. Everything unowned within the limitless spheres of space, creating these things in my mind, I offer them to the supreme beings, the Buddhas, as well as their sons. O compassionate ones, think kindly of me and accept these offerings of mine. Oh yeah, right. So we can take the practice of offerings beyond the actual things we have and just use our mind to offer up whatever beautiful fields of flowers, trees, and beautiful environments that we encounter in our mind. And doing this mentally, of course, no owner of those things is going to object. So many lamas say that as we develop this recollection and appreciation of these beautiful things we see and we offer them up mentally, any sort of objection that we have to the practice of offerings because of miserliness, thinking I'm poor, I don't have enough, this will just start to dissipate and we'll start to feel that we can offer many things abundantly using the power of the mind. Yeah. So if we do things on the mental level, right, then there's no need to be dishonest or whatever to procure more offerings. No one will object. We can offer them up using the mind. So one Tibetan practitioner who was in prison and he was being beaten in the prison, he said, you can do whatever you want to this body of mine, but what is in my mind, this is something over which you have no control.
So
we no matter what our financial situation is, we definitely have the opportunity to make offerings in a very vast way. That's the principle.
노카도 뇽바트니 제와 야 자침보 테르지트니 니 텐다 침보 티기 텐데 저러서 이루지 세기도스
Huh? Yeah, we'll go on.
제와 노카도 뇽바 지와라와스
Lozo.
데 강갈 켄조서 요 피기요스
Yep. Then
니 텐다 침보 티 텐데 이루지
right. So we imagine these limitless things, these limitless field of offerings. We offer these up to the three jewels, and then we ask for help in our task of bringing forth this mind.
단디소 다 단디소아
Lozo.
다 나비 마주이 짐바와데 용조치렌도아 다는 세노마데 테체데 체베노제 다라 좀마지 디나 예데 공뱅게진다 다기텔레 니지 투이시
Having no merit, I am destitute, and I have no other gifts to offer. O protectors, you who think of helping others, by your power accept these for my sake.
단디네게 쇼디와 다는 세노마데 테체다 세nga 세노도 마데미 온게 아니 다 베지탈라트네 몸보 알레야 몸보 요암피아 저 만두
So this is a little bit of a lament in a way, thinking that, I am not somebody who accumulated enough virtue to have like a wealth of material things to offer in this life. So I don't have actually much that I can offer up. So therefore, I will use this practice of mentally offering up those beautiful things which I do not necessarily own. So then we come to verse number 8, which is the offering of one's body. So there are many reasons that one would want to offer up one's body to the three jewels. One of the reasons is that if one does make this offering, then the three jewels will protect you from any sort of harm by unseen beings, spirits, and so forth.
So lead the pizza is that the pillar to Chimbo Shalayo. Yeah, who can get you?
So Digpa ne koya. Also, if we offer up our body in this way, it will give us a mindfulness and awareness, right? I've offered up my body to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, so it would be unsuitable for me to engage in what is unwholesome.
Oh, maybe Chaba Nunana Chaba me Kachimbochirdas. Carres liter Ramboche Kangalista Tachi was.
And also, we know that this human body is a very valuable thing to offer up because we already established that it is more precious than wish-fulfilling jewels.
What in the Vachitenda Jato Tesinola, Doggy Nis, Doggy Lick, Tendum Oaja, Sembachono, Donna Yushi, keep it changing boss, Choaja, Donna changing us Zuina, Sina, Maji Koalan Jipamento, Sina, Maji Senja Pembaj, Ninja Dylan, Udan Daji. Dipajian, let's check Mujito.
That's a payment. Just called.
Look at it. Jato, Jato.
Nidros, huh?
Look at me.
Yeah. So verses 8 to 10. Eternally I shall offer all my bodies to the conquerors and their sons. Please accept me, you supreme heroes. Respectfully I shall be your subject. Through being completely under your care, I shall benefit all with no fears of conditioned existence. I shall perfectly transcend my previous evils, and in the future shall commit no more.
This one, oh, that I'm getting some more shit. So, T told it, and in your boat, and it
So reciting these verses can be very powerful for purification, especially if we think about the four opponent powers, right? The power of the promise, which actually that doesn't translate what the Tibetan says. It gives the meaning, but not what the Tibetan says. The Tibetan says turning one's back on the fault. So this is the practice of turning one's back on the fault. So we also here can talk about two different types of offerings, excelled offerings and unexcelled offerings. Rikchunidu.
Rikchunidu.
So in terms of excelled offerings, there are 12 different types.
다 동가장이다.
So we'll count through those.
티.
Huh?
티.
Offering the bath,
나자. 둘로.
offering heavenly garments or clothing,
예.
ornaments,
주바.
lotions and perfumes is number 4.
매도.
Number 5 is flowers.
비.
Number 6 is incense.
자세.
Number 7 is food.
노사 마메.
Number 8 is lamps.
야메콩.
Number 9, 야메콩스나?
고바. 야이콩.
9 is places of dwelling, so like holy buildings.
어느 두.
Parasols is number 10.
로모.
Shedirwa. Number 11 is music.
어다테 파시 조사.
Ane chuni dromason.
아.
No, chuni dromason.
前面 넘바 예즈자이.
Ngaso chuchik mato dromason.
前面 넘바 예다 라만다.
And then the text, Geshe, I was like, Geshe, that's only 11, it's not 12. So he's looking at the text and the text says plus other offerings. So just think of number 12 as a big old etc, etc. So I'll go through those again. Number 1, bath. Number 2, clothing. Number 3, ornaments. Number 4, perfumes or lotions. Number 5, flowers. Number 6, incense. Number 7, food. Number 8, lamps. Number 9, buildings. Number 10, parasols. Number 11, music. And number 12. Okay, so Geshe has changed his mind. He is saying that number 12 is the continuous abiding of those offerings. So the inexhaustibility of those offerings is number 12. Yes, so that's how it comes at the bath. So now we come to the discussion of the bath. Yep. So number 10 talks about the bathhouse or the bathing chamber. 2 very sweetly scented bathing chambers with brilliantly sparkling crystal floors and exquisite pillars ablaze with gems, having canopies above aglow with pearls. So it's a beautiful kind of palace-like ornamented space in which we offer the bath to the holy beings. So the bathing chamber itself is made out of, how Geshe is describing it, it's like a kind of a thick sort of a crystal floor embedded with beautiful jewels and other precious substances. And it is, of course, perfectly clean and polished, and it brings forth a radiance. And so within this bathing pavilion, there are also beautiful flowers and so forth. And so now, having established the bathing building, we now ask the holy beings to come and take a bath. We invite. I beseech the Tathagatas and their sons to come and bathe their bodies from many jeweled vases filled with waters scented and enticing to the accompaniment of music and song. So Geshe said that actually, if you go to one of the big monasteries, like in India, when they do the Munlam Chemo, the great prayer festival, you will see like a very elaborate sort of ritual enactment of this with many beautiful fabrics and so forth, and then a mirror and other implements that are used to represent the bathing offering.
당월 야이는 때는 제가 비게 pomaka 게티를 하이 라모트는 뭐지 된다시는 다치
And for those of you who are practicing Vajrayana, you'll know that one of the offerings that we make is sending out from the heart of the deity countless offering goddesses who are holding beautiful pictures filled with a sublime cleansing substance, and these are poured as a libation and a purification over the deities.
다우소노 야보토 가르다 텐리 핀네라 코로솔로 데지셰바도 코로솔로 텐리가 야 네츠데 저마도 텐리야 마라바스 마로스 코이 저마파 강가파 바비체도
So one of the awarenesses we should have when we make this offering is that the Tathagatas, right, the Buddhas, they are of course unstained by faults. But by making this offering to them, we actually create the cause to be able to wash away, to purify our own stains.
야 데디 제세 뭐요 알아 왔으니까 코알 데비가라 나로솔라 다 퍼스스바 뭐 그거 알아 왔 데리들어요 그래서 야 데데요 알아
And so it also creates the cause by making this offering of the bath and so forth of merit to be able to have the necessities of life. Karmically, it creates a cause to have the necessities of life, the enjoyments that we sort of need to get by as well.
다 그냥 기포 하더라 마르크쇼
Kushua, the kambosoya.
친니
Yeah.
데데다가라 춤바메비 기존라 저러 곰비 끄쇼고
Let me dry their bodies with incomparable cloths, clean and well anointed with scent. And so that's, so the half of verse 12 is where Geshe stopped. Yeah. So in the monastery, you'll see actually what happens is that like a piece of fabric, like a cloth is kind of opened up. And then the umse, the ritual chant master, will kind of show the cloth like this as representing drying the holy bodies. Geshe thinks I'm kind of overdoing it a bit, but it does look pretty impressive. And so then the next half of the verse is offering the heavenly garments, clothing. And then may I present these holy beings with fragrant garments of suitable colors. So we will end it right there at the end of verse 12, and we will leave it for next time. So now we are going to have at least a brief discussion of the Heart Sutra. And so, allez, dans ce dogi ne suci, romaswa. De niente la tempe dole, sugni uwa. Allez, ça. So, of course, as we proceed with the Heart Sutra, Geshe said, we're going to go through it kind of very slowly, also coming back to things, because in fact, there's so much that is important to cover in this text.
So
we can see that when the question is posed and when the answer is given, we see a mention, Shariputra. So we're on page 10 for you guys. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage, right? And then we also see in the answer, it mentions the son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage. So what does this mean? So this idea of lineage, it's actually a translation here of the Tibetan word rik. The English really doesn't do justice to it, but it's almost like a lineage, but also a potential. So you could think any son or daughter of the potential. So if we think of lineage or potential in the positive sense, we could think of one of the lineage of liberation, of moksha, one of the lineage of the Bodhisattvas, and one of the lineage of the Buddhas. So, of course, at the time when Buddha Shakyamuni was preaching in the land of India, lineage was determined by a system of birth, which we now call caste, right? Or varna.
손진 좀을 더 배는 그 생체 요조 이제를 리자치 뭐 관계 차네요. 요 mess.
The Buddha said actually that the varna or the lineage is not determined by birth because all human beings share a special potential, a special lineage.
답이 리세다. 생체 요조 이제를 찌바 요마도 요 mess.
Every single sentient being has the potential for moksha, for liberation within them. Therefore, they are of the lineage of liberation.
손지 코로그 지류라.
Mhm.
리조마이. 리리조마이 스니라가.
Rikso mayan dene nipati?
니빠트 코로그 리지 뭐 맞고 리지라고.
Rikdang rijik sena?
리도 리지 세레라. 리도 리지 코로 맞고 리지지야라와.
Netsuji din so roa.
대말.
Ale, mitse tambong anso lokchore dene tama trabajogires. Yes, okay. Okay.
말. 원다. 나도 맞고 리지데.
Yes. Hakoso. Yeah. So at the time, so there is this system of lineage that is expressed in two ways: caste and place in society. So we call this in Sanskrit varnashrama dharma. So it's the teaching of the caste of one's birth and also position in life.
다 때다가 저저저 마도 때자치 뭐 메스도 드바 조치가 노래 조치가
The Buddha said that neither the varna, the caste that one was born into, or the station of life, whether student, householder, vanaprastha, etc., is important. What is important is one's cultivation, one's practice.
다 때다가 저 말다 대할레비 자치야
So this establishes a very important path of equality. The Buddha said that one who trains his mind and one who is able to bring his or her mind to a state of complete purification, they are an object worthy of prostration and respect. So son or daughter of the lineage, in the case of the Heart Sutra, means one who is suitable of practicing the teaching and meditation on emptiness to its completion. So when we speak about the paths of accumulation and preparation, and we talk about the cultivation of profound emptiness in that period, it is spoken of in the following way. So on the paths of accumulation and preparation, we are mainly practicing cultivating emptiness, thinking about the five aggregates, and especially the aggregate of form, because that is the first of the five. So you'll see actually that this comes first in the sutra, right? It mentions form is empty, emptiness is form. So why does emptiness have to be spoken about first? Geshe is going to use the mug he is holding as an example. Asuk horbadi and pumbo jendagden so chudabore. So we can think of the mug as the aggregate of form, and the remaining four aggregates as the water that is within the mug. So it is mainly our relationship with this first aggregate the aggregate of form that develops our afflicted habits related to attachment and aversion.
저도 그 짜와 용사 그다 거를 보게 말이 봐 쪼어대 아니 말이 비 쪼어대 그 여로지 매바도 주인거데 로지 매바도 다 도소나
Yeah.
아니 코토로 그러와 코치시소나
Uh-huh.
얘노가 데려지 오메 바고 뭐바도 좋아서
Kale, manta. Tamudi joti, kale.
팅아들라 팅아들 빼나 포바테 로지메 바치 소토소나 빼나 포바테 지 좋아서나
Yep.
최대 로지메 바 강갈린도 그러와스
So if we were to break that mug, right, all of the water or liquid inside it would dissipate.
다 책강은 저거 주장해 봐 좋아서 리라버
And then that seemingly pinpointable water that was in there, once the cup breaks and it spills out, there's no water, single unitary water that you can point to at all.
대노지 수이도 로지메 바치 다 토자소나
Uh-huh.
In
the same way, if we are able to see that form lacks inherent or true existence, carrying over that understanding of emptiness of inherent existence to the remaining four aggregates becomes simple. What are you talking about? Yeah, like Rimotina. Loso. Right. So similarly, you can think of a wall which has a mural on it. If there is a wall with a beautiful mural maybe depicting a beautiful meadow with many flowers, if something happens that wall breaks and falls apart, there's no longer going to be any mural of flowers that you can point to. If one is able to develop a deep understanding of the lack of inherent existence of the form aggregate, it is said that even merely by kind of gazing upon the other aggregates briefly, one can understand their lack of inherent existence. So this really goes to this principle that if one is able to deeply comprehend the emptiness of one object, of one phenomenon, that can easily be carried over to any other phenomena. So Nagarjuna's student Aryadeva said that when the emptiness of one phenomenon is cognized, the emptiness of all other phenomena is easily seen. So some scholars argue, okay, so that means if you have the realization of the emptiness of one phenomenon, then simultaneously you have the realization of all phenomena. We would say it's not exactly like that. It's not like you have that realization of the emptiness of one phenomenon and then just every other phenomenon's emptiness unfolds instantaneously. It's more like based on that experience of the realization of the emptiness of that phenomenon, then when you engage with other objects, it's easy to realize their emptiness. So this should give us some encouragement, right? To bring forth joyous effort, that if we're able to understand the emptiness of one phenomenon, then comprehending the emptiness of other phenomena is going to unfold very easily, actually. And another thing that we wanted to mention here is that the five aggregates or skandhas. This is a teaching that is very unifying in Buddhism, because whether we talk about any of the Mahayana schools or any of the Shravakayana schools, including the Theravada, all of them share in common this teaching of the 5 skandhas.
Zuna Awadipanda, Soachi, Chivajan, the Shimajitabadan, the Shenon, Chishija, Nobashiba Jamata, Yemenian Jikata to.
So, I was not able to find this sutra online, so I translated the name of the sutra and the verse myself. So if there's any errors, it's Kedrup's fault. The Sutra of the Shravaka's Acts. The Sutra of the Shravaka's Acts. Form is like a mass of foam. Feelings are like bubbles. Discrimination is like a mirage. Formations are like a plantain tree. Consciousness is like an illusion. The kinsman of the sun, so that means Buddha Shakyamuni, has proclaimed it thus. Did everyone get that, or do I need to read it again? Okay, I'll read it. Okay, so I see people at home seem to get it. People here, so I'll read it again. I'll read it again. The Sutra of the Shravaka's Acts. Form is like a mass of foam. Feelings are like bubbles. Discrimination is like a mirage. Formations similar to a plantain tree. Consciousness like an illusion. The kinsman of the sun has proclaimed it thus.
So this
is saying the basis of our attachment and aversion, holding things as being a truly existence. If you try to pinpoint their true existence, there is nothing findable at all. It is also based upon this ignorance that we start to designate things as likes and dislikes, as positive or negative. There's nothing that is findable in this way. Oh, right. Yeah. So form is like a foam. So Geshe said this is like the foam that, I mean, so has any so if anybody has been to Delhi in India around this time of year, if you look at the Yamuna, there's this big foam. It's almost like kind of like bubble bath. It's that kind of foam. So form is like that foam, right? When you try to grab at something solid, it kind of just comes apart. So it's like that. Yeah. So at first, it's actually, when you see it, it looks quite beautiful. So that foam seems like also this solid thing sitting atop the water. But if you were to try to go into it, to walk into it, it starts to dissipate. And what seems so easily findable is not there at all.
So that's
like the foam. I think that's the only example I can think of in my life when I've seen it. So I shared that. So I don't want to cause offense. The next one is like bubbles. So the feelings are like bubbles. The feelings are like bubbles that sit on the surface of moving water.
This one.
And discriminations are like a mirage. So a mirage, Geshe said, like when you're in a very hot desert and looking across the sand, and it seems like there is that appearance of water there. So of course, that doesn't exist at all, but there is an appearance that something is there with that mirage. Formations are like a plantain tree. So formations, Geshe is saying, is really referring to karma, so like causes and results. So we know that those karmic results, they don't last forever, right? So in that way, they're like a plantain tree, which unlike its cousin, the banana, it fruits once, and then the tree kind of starts to dissipate. And consciousness is like an illusion.
아니 디스와
디스.
다 조사를
야, 소설에, 소설.
어다야 빈봉 같은 것도 내서 던지지르다 된다 이자 노아 노지 저 요 말레스
So things do not exist inherently in the way that they appear. These lines from the Sutra of the Shravaka's Acts. So for those, I know there's a couple of people with Tibetan, so that's Nientu la tempe do. Nientu la tempe do.
어단데 너 대체 때문에 강력 길래야 너 자침부지래
And so Geshe said the Sutra of the Shravaka's Acts is something that you see accepted in both the Mahayana and the Theravada traditions.
나조 노지 돈이 도비 싫어 될라 맞아라 말레스
Matza.
마마
Yeah.
하도 만은 마세비 말레스
So the wisdom realizing emptiness is often spoken about as the mother.
돈이 도비 싫어 돼 아니 니티 농자 강가 로로 파파 강기가 그렇게 지군다고 아니 전다고 드레스
And that's because the wisdom realizing emptiness is like a cause of these beings, the hearers, the Shravakas, the solitary realizers, the Pratyeka Buddhas, and so forth. So just like our mother was the cause of us, the wisdom realizing emptiness is the cause of these realized beings.
니티 다좀바 로자 다좀바 대체 다좀바 세이나 돈이 도비 싫어 될라 되네 죽어근디와스
So whether we speak about the hearers, the Shravakas, the foe destroyers of the Shravakayana, the path of individual liberation, or we talk about the foe destroyer on the Bodhisattva path, the realization that allowed them to achieve that is the wisdom realizing emptiness. Therefore, wisdom is like the mother.
대이자 싫어라 또 따와를 쳐봐요 말레스 대바서 기바레스
So these three, if we talk about it, three paths, these are the Niente Rangyedang Tekchen. If we talk about these three paths, the path of the Shravaka, of the solitary realizer, of the hearer, the path of the Pratyeka Buddha, the path of the solitary realizer, or the Mahayana path, right? Sumdenso dene?
미미 대체 되면 얘기도 로자서 될라
Yeah.
따와를 토메요 말이 기바레스
There is no difference in the view of emptiness on these three. There is no difference in the view of emptiness.
리스와 아니 조주지 세텔로 다 조주지 세 조시비 타라 하데 타도다와 마디 히라도다와
It's actually the father practice in Mahayana of bodhicitta and the associated teachings that acts as the father, which determines the lineage of the child as Mahayana. But the mother, it shares a mother in common, that mother of wisdom with the other two vehicles. So Geshe said that that's what we will share for today. So then with a happy mind, we will make our dedications. I just wanted to say once again, we've been having great discussions. I'm going to try to make myself available for as long as is needed. I know other people may have things to do. So after the dedication, if you need to get on with your day, please feel free. But afterwards, you can stay for all or part of the discussion. Jangju semjo rinpoche mache panam chejur chi chewa nyamba meba yang gone gondu bewar sho tongni tawa rinpoche mache panam chejur chi chewa nyamba meba yang gone gondu bewar sho jambe bao jigda kempa ta kundu zambo deyan dejente deda gungi jesu dalo chir yewa deda tamche rabdungo dusun shebe gyewa tamche gi ngowa gangla chodu ngapa de dagi gewe tsawa dikun kya zambo juji rabdu ngowa gi Gangri rawe gope shinkande pendan dewa maru chokwe ne chinre ziwan tenzin jatsohi shape site badu tengyo
je kangi gyawa kandi jiso yoba ina ta te nipala teni yo ritu yo zulu ta pake de jiga ta doya meba nyamasha to.
So through the merits that myself and others have accumulated in this way, may the sun of inexhaustible happiness shine on all 6 types of beings in samsara without exception.
Lich na tsala suba, lich kangi kandi chi ina, senji kangi kandi chi ina, raba tawa mambo yo kanga apa, chaba shawa no jita pa shi jildo.
Through these merits, may just like ice with a warm rain, may all of the sufferings of beings be melted away. May those who are experiencing physical suffering, no matter how coarse or subtle, may this be cleared away. May those who are experiencing mental suffering and instability, may the causes of those be cleared away. And when we look in this world to all of those beings possessed of evil thoughts who are harming, we pray that through these merits, those evil thoughts are replaced with thoughts of loving kindness. So we will pause there. Just let me turn up the volume for a moment, and then we can take questions. That's okay. So are there any questions? We'll start with questions and maybe a story if there's no questions. Please go ahead.
Carol has a question.
Go for it, Carol.
Hello. Thank you so much, as always. Verse 8 is about offering the body. Could Geshe Sonam please say more about offering the body? Is that relating to practice? Or just to listen to what Geshe Sonam would like to say about that. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Yeah, no worries. Nganso di pulia ginangla so lugi pulia chik dus roa. Dene Geshe la lu pulia kola samso karieres nganso lu ngene kandes pugasa.
Ta lipea kol kazo nganso decho kala kete mo wish so has. Pena nganso hot kata wa ina la teji shane teji. That's machina.
Yeah. Loso. Yeah.
Teji koros said the Chakanga, Mevazone, koros gaving on nela, liponella,
It reminds Geshe of something that was mentioned yesterday during the commentary on Chakra Samvara, when we talked about the 2 deities trampled under his feet, Bhairava and Kalarati, that these beings... Sorry, that these beings were not being given. It's like, I don't know what's that these beings, were not being kind of given trouble, right? That they offered their bodies as a surface for his feet willingly. Nganso samlo tangna nganso sangye gi shap ola re samlo tangna digires. So we can think in a similar way, actually. We can think that I go for refuge and offer myself up to the Buddha or a Tara or whatever, and we can think that I offer myself as like kind of a surface holding up her feet, and in this way, or his feet, and in this way, not only am I making this offering, but I am also coming under their protection. So you could visualize like that. Huh? There are, of course, other teachings about actually offering one's body as sustenance and so forth for not only the holy beings, but sentient beings. But most of us are not at a point where we are able to do that. So Geshe is not going to share that here. Actually, it's explicitly forbidden unless one is extremely advanced. If one is a beginner, it's explicitly forbidden to offer up one's body like completely as an offering.
어다 드리지 이자 리퍼스야 돼 로이 논이 퍼네 단다스 야 야 세가 고로보게 요래 지서 제도는 야쇼레 마도 어다 레토비갈 때 말했을
So what does that mean? It means that for us, it's a mental practice, and we can offer that up with a visualization like was explained, or we can offer it up in service mentally in that way.
거기에 다 가리이난 요래 체 토보 요케를 내가 제한테 단단히 제작이들은 요라 먹고 용비하러 왔어.
So if we say that like we have to be like those stories, right, about the holy beings in their previous lives who completely just gave away their body as food and so forth, that is really unsuitable for us, right? Because we're not there yet. So it's explicitly forbidden for beginner practitioners like us to do that.
어다 드리지 자 로이 논이 다 제기하고 뭐 모두 당연히 제토야고 고로 레토비가는 뭐야 되지다다 좀.
So the suggestion here would be to offer it mentally, as we talked about in that visualization, but also to offer your practice, your engagement, your good deeds that you do with your body. So you could do it in that way. Was that the answer you needed? Yeah, go ahead.
It's quite different from the Christian sense of sacrifice, right? And is this actually written anywhere? Because it would be so useful to discuss this, especially with beginners who feel quite sacrificial sometimes.
I don't know how to translate the word sacrifice into Tibetan, to be honest with you.
That's extremely interesting that it's not there.
I don't want to say that because I may look into a dictionary and find it, but it's not a word that I've heard before. And I think I probably would have heard it. Like, there's some other people that know. Annie, does any word come to mind for sacrifice?
It doesn't, but I'm going to look it up and see.
Okay. Okay. Anyways, I'll try to get the gist of your question to Geshe Carol to the best that I can.
Thank you.
Nganso ludi pet pulgores nga chikyong gogi mendus ngarang kechempo metsang yar pugires yishu nangla dabo chik dua dene dela tenimi mumbo lugi kange din so yore duas di le tambo so chogi mares jung nangla titsares di kawayres.
요즘 놀라 대로도 드리야 말was 이나요 아니 리좀 받도야 되지 내가 리다 메도 되지 받도야 되지 아니 레토미가 셰추 말해서 요아레.
So you won't maybe find something that states that explicitly in the scriptures, but in many scriptures you will find that it is forbidden for one to offer one's eyes, one's body, and so forth prior to realization.
There's
a line, neither of us can remember where it's from, but I think you could find it if you looked for it, Carol. It says, when you can give away your body in the same way that you would give away a plate of vegetables, then is the time to give it. Something like that. Geshe said it's a practical principle, right, of what is not permitted. We're not permitted to offer more than we are capable of, because if we offer more than we are capable of, it will damage our body and our health, and will waste this precious human rebirth, right? So that's the principle. Yeah. So that should be relatively, easy to understand.
It's very clear.
There's a mark in the Melam dictionary, Tarang Solchit. In Marche. Yeah, Marche Chepa.
Marche Chepa is like red offering, right?
Yeah, and Marche, but Tarak Solchit.
Tarak Solchit?
Sorry, I didn't mean to, am I talking over someone? I didn't mean to.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Venerable. I'd like to hear those words, and if you cut someone off, they can come in after, but can you just say those words again so Geshe can hear? Marche was the first.
I'm just taking it straight out of Melam dictionaries. Tarak Solchit and Marche. Marche.
You momono to share in the upper and the upper and more younger was.
So I think that Marche is actually like the sacrificing of animals and so forth.
Yeah, it's like bloody. Yeah.
Yeah, but Geshe said the principle is really not offering more than you can as something that would damage your health and your ability to practice.
So I think an example of sacrifice would be the antelope that steps in front of the arrow
Right.
That image, yeah.
Ngama di shawa chikrwa mi sumkyo chegi che du dagi dunla droswan dene korong drogire tu adabuchi rwa. Yeah, sumkyo chegi. Yeah, korong shiswan. So the antelope dies in this analogy, right? Dave? Yeah, Shigir. Yes, in principle, but there are exceptions. It's a whole long conversation of like, we'd have to say when this is advisable and when it's and when it's not. But yeah. So on the one hand, you accumulate a great virtue when you put your body between something that's going to protect someone else's life. So that's something virtuous, right? But you have to weigh that with the lost opportunity of losing, especially your human life, right? So to say that what the antelope did is wrong, right? We can't really say that because it was done with like a selfless positive thing to protect. But what we can't say is that that is advisable for everyone. So what's our perspective? Our perspective is that if you don't do that, if you protect this human life and you use it to cultivate love, compassion, and bring forth bodhicitta, that actually you're going to become a being who's capable of helping so many suffering migrators, right? Not just saving one life, but helping so many suffering sentient beings. Those who have realized love, compassion, and who have perfected the paramita of patience, those beings maybe have something to think about offering up or sacrificing their body, right? But that's not us, is it? They have already to have those realizations accumulated much merit, and because of their realization, right, they have a measure of control in the future, and also due to their motivation of doing that, they can accumulate like the equivalent of 3 kalpas, 3 eons of merits from that act of generosity. So in the Jatakamala, in the stories of the previous lifetimes of the Buddha, while he was a bodhisattva, there's many stories actually that explore this theme more fully.
Petra?
Yeah.
Regarding the word sacrifice, I think it makes a difference between whether you're sacrificing something else to produce some kind of beneficial effect, or if you're sacrificing yourself, right? Can
you give an example of something else?
If you sacrifice an animal, it's different from sacrificing yourself in order to get some kind of result.
Oh, right. So do you mean like if you were in an animal rebirth and you sacrificed yourself to save someone, it would be different from a human rebirth? Or do you mean like actually going out killing and sacrificing animals?
If you actually went out to go out and kill something to sacrifice would be different from saying that you're going to sacrifice yourself.
Yeah. Nganso chik mitse pulna ruadi chik che ine nganso semchen jendag me pasogins jimpa puria giche didi kepa champo chik tua. Yes, there's a big difference between those two.
Yeah. Oh, that Kanga was on it, but
Right.
Kanga was quite Javashik.
Yeah.
What Jimala is in with the tomorrow.
So,
Oh, that Jimala of Koroko and Mangaro Mevas.
oh yeah. So there's okay, I got it now. Sorry about that. So Geshe is telling a story about this man who was really inspired by Lord Milarepa's story. So he thought, like, just like Lord Milarepa, I am just sacrificing everything. I'm going for it. I'm leaving everything behind. And he gave up like every single one of his worldly possessions and his connections and so forth and went there. Of course, after a few years of living like that, he wasn't able to maintain the effort that Milarepa was able to maintain. So he was kind of joking that Lord Milarepa got himself enlightened, but gosh, he really kind of cheated me, kind of thing, was his reflection, of course, because he wasn't capable of that same practice, right? Yes. So we say in the practice to offer one's body and to offer one's life. We don't need to think that that offering of one's life or one's body means giving it up or sacrificing. Offering something and sacrificing it are two different things. Yeah. So if we say that I'm offering up this mug, that doesn't mean that like we take the mug and smash it so that it's not a mug anymore, right? That doesn't make sense. We could even keep the mug intact and still use it to drink from time to time. But when we say I offer up this cup, what we're saying is I am offering up in effect my attachment to it. I'm going to practice no longer being attached to it. But we can still keep it, right? Because it's serving a purpose that it's going to hold our tea or our water or whatever. So it's still useful for us. Right. So in the same way, we could offer our human life, but that does not mean sacrificing it, right? We can offer it up. We can offer up our obsession with this life and the feelings of attachment to it, which also leads to aversion. And we can offer that up, but still abide in our life and accomplish what we need to do, right? We really need to offer in this way, in a way that eases our attachment, because we know what happens with excessive attachment. Excessive attachment leads to aversion, and that aversion compels us into negative acts or negative karma. So as beginners, we don't think about actually offering up our body, but we can take an approach to these teachings of changing our mentality like about our body. And in this way, it really becomes a practice of training the mind more than anything else. So, not maybe offering it up, but using it in a mode of cherishing others so that we do offer it to others in a way that we are able to use it to bring them benefit. Yeah. Right. So saying that I am practicing the training of the mind, that also doesn't mean that that's all you do and you don't have to subdue your physical actions and your speech, for example, right? We want to train our mind mainly, but also we want to subdue our body and speech. So we need to look at how we can use our body and our speech and our mind in maybe even small ways that bring benefit or welfare to others. And if we use them in ways to bring benefit or welfare to others, then this is also offering them up. Okay, so next question.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Sorry, I can see the people, but not the hands. So whoever's next, go ahead, please. My eyes are just not that great.
We have Martha and then Manoshi.
Okay, go ahead, Martha.
Everybody, I'm happy to be here today. And thank you very much for the teachings. I am very worried, really worried about the global situation of the war. And I want to ask, what is the recommendation? Because we are like, we don't know if we can go to a nuclear war. And what when we see the news and when we think about this, what is the practice that we have to do? Thank you very much.
Sure, got it, Martha. Yeah. And so, Tambo ko semtre shu chambo yore zambulingi netsu korla karin sena perna sanjur kadutana dene kadi ne netsu duksha mambore dua anechi chena bom shukchesha di jabne chichena zambuling chatsangwa pet trola droya ginyanga du wa anenganso du nikma di kaplolaya a kandes chik samlo tangores nanso zambulingi netsu sargyurdinso thana dene nyamlen kandes chikres.
야, 다 던질 렀다네 소소가 녀래 보게 야 냥바 대질단 조론 줘야 다 보게 저 고가 뭐지요.
So really, it goes back to the principle, and it provides us an opportunity to transform adverse conditions or to transform obstacles into the path.
가정 안주 깨져 먹으셔서 배 걸어 대쪽 넘발 그는 손지 줘된데 팬내를 내가 뭐 제게야 돼요. 또 고한들 다 고할 수 있라 줘라. 할 레비트니 센실 내가 자치 보시게 따라 줘야면 이때나라. 어느
So when we think of the manifestation of Lord Chakrasamvara, for example, we know that the Buddha manifested as Chakrasamvara in this particular form because this form has a capacity of subduing beings. And at that time, there were many evil beings, devas and so forth, that were oppressing the world. And so this form of Chakrasamvara arose to be able to subdue that. So we have to be confident that although we might not be able to be enlightened and achieve like a form of the holy body of Chakrasamvara right now, that our study and practice of the Dharma is planting seeds within us. These seeds within us, as they begin to sprout and blossom, we will become somebody who is more capable of helping to bring forth wisdom and so forth that subdue evil and of bringing benefit to this world. So we have to not get discouraged. So through the practices that we accumulate, if we are able to build up a powerful merit, right? A powerful meritorious karma, then we become endowed with a certain power to be able to, maybe not in this life, but certainly in future lives, be somebody who is capable of bringing forth things necessary to subdue these evils. So for us, kind of on the ground level, the best thing when we see these stories on the news or whatever that are disturbing us is to use that as a way to regard those beings with compassion, to use that compassion to bring forth bodhicitta, and to know that when that bodhicitta is realized, we will really be able to bring some meaningful help. So it's a mentality that's like the king-like bodhicitta. So I said to Geshe, maybe some people aren't familiar. So he said, you just tell them what it is. The king-like bodhicitta is you know, he or she gets enlightened first, right? So they get their coronation as like the king or the president first, so that they can then help all sentient beings. So it's like we sort ourselves out first, then we can help others. So Geshe is just sharing that most bodhisattvas, they actually start with that king-like bodhicitta, right? Rather than like the shepherd-like bodhicitta or the captain-like bodhicitta. They start with that king-like bodhicitta, but by the time the bodhicitta is realized, and certainly by the time of enlightenment, then they are so capable of benefiting countless sentient beings. Whereas the shepherd, right, he or she, the shepherd-like bodhicitta, he or she is thinking, you know, all of these sentient beings are suffering so terribly. I have this unbearable compassion for them. I don't even necessarily want to focus on cultivating my own enlightenment. I want to lead all of them to enlightenment first, and then I'll get there, right? This is a mentality of even greater compassion. So we should use the problems of this world, which is really the problems of samsara, of cyclic existence, to bolster our determination to practice. It shouldn't be something that makes us feel like defeated or discouraged. Think of what His Holiness the Dalai Lama has said, that lifetime after lifetime, I will be reborn in places of difficulty and strife where sentient beings need help the most. In this way, it's an opportunity. Yes, I think that's the answer to that question. Manoshi.
Hello, yes, thank you so much. I would like to ask a question. So when reading the Shantideva, the chapter 2, and it's not only in this chapter, but in other texts as well, Guru Puja and so forth, the bathing offering, particularly, I'm wondering, as I like to read this chapter 2 often, what would be the appropriate visualization that I should do? I know that Geshe said that in the ceremonies that they do in the monasteries, they hold a cloth up, and that represents the bathing offering, or the washing ritual.
Drying.
Drying. So I just wondered, what, as you go through all of the steps of, you offer clothes, you wash, dry, offer the clothes, the ornaments, what would be the appropriate visualization that I could do while reciting those verses?
Yeah, gotcha.
Like, do I actually offer, like, do I actually visualize, Anyway.
Gotcha. Yeah. Liu nipadi rwa nganso truso chikyore. Ane truso ginangla nganso di nabsa pulia dang jen denso pulia dang denso da pores rwa. Tene nganso penamo namgyun junju kyogire dwa. Di kaplola ya nganso soya chikyore, sel tabya chikyore, matok jen nganso di gumba nangshin re dawochi peshe tangne dang shego dang chuchik tangires. Di lope kapola kandes shik sanglo tanguresa.
Yeah, that's also they say yo chachi yona nojinga to tisoso garawas
Georgia Dabashiro. Yeah. So Geshe said, like, if you have time, yes, it's like good to make it into a practice. So you would do like the bathing offering, like from the Georgia with the bumpa and the mirror and the cloth and all those other things. You can do that, absolutely. But if you don't have time, you just visualize these things. Go through the process of visualizing the bathhouse, the washing, the drying, and so forth. Yeah. So the monks in the monastery, of course, when they gather for the tso, like in the Dharma assembly, then you'll have like the elaborate sort of like plate, which represents the bathhouse, and the water going over the mirror and folding out the cloth and so forth. These are done very elaborately. But most of the monks don't do these kind of physical acts of worship when they're at home, right? They do it using visualization instead. Yeah, it is actually said that when the Buddha first came out from the side of his mother, that actually before his feet touched the earth, Brahma took him into his hands and offered him like a washing. Offered him bathing. Yes. And so you'll see this in many sadhanas as well, just like as the Buddha first came into the world and was offered ablution, so do I offer ablution. It actually goes back to that. Yep. So it reminds us of that story that just as the Buddha first came into the world and was lovingly bathed by Brahma, in the same way we make this offering of a bath to the holy beings. But Geshe said that, sometimes it could be good to use the implements because this gives us more feeling for the practice. But it's really nice too if you go to like one of the 3 seats, so Sera Drepung Ganden during the Munlam Chemmo, the great prayer festival, and you can see these very elaborate ritual expressions of this. It's very inspiring. Yeah. So they wear like special clothing and have very elaborate offerings and so forth. A lot of these are actually the Facebook. They have really kind of gorgeous offering vessels, like the vases are made of are sometimes like covered in gold plating and so forth. So they do everything with the best of what they have. And also the umzes, the chant masters, get into a little bit of a competition over who has the nicest voice. So there's that aspect of it as well. But when the time comes, actually, a lot of these are streamed on Facebook now. So if you look at the Munlam, the various big monasteries often put these on Facebook. I know Seraji and Serame certainly have them on Facebook. And so these physical things are like an aid, but of course the main thing is the mental offering, the mental visualization. Because like if you're doing all of like the mudras with all of the implements really beautifully, but in your mind you're unmoved and it's sort of just a routine, then it's not as beneficial as not having any of those things but doing it mentally, right? Yeah. So there are some stories related to that. So there are some stories that illustrate this fact, and the point of these stories is that mainly these practices are an internal practice, and it's the cultivation of the mind. And okay, so it's not the outer implements, right? It's mainly the practice of the mind. And so Geshe said that I think next weekend Geshe Sherab is going to be lecturing, so we won't be here, but the following weekend Geshe will tell a story to illustrate this point. So he's decided to tell the story. All right. Sorry, because he said we won't be here for 2 weeks, so maybe people feel they were missing out. So we'll tell the story. Okay, listen. Okay, yeah. So this is a story of a being who was kind of like a preta, like a hungry ghost, and there were 2 lamanirwa. There were 2 lamas that were making offerings of burnt tsampa to him, right? This is a traditional practice called the surdapurwa. Not exactly the sur, but similar. They were offering tsampa to this hungry ghost. Yeah. So one of the lamas had very beautiful implements like the special spoons and the chimes and really high quality tsampa and so forth that he was offering to this spirit. And he was, a well-known lama who had some means, so he never offered just a little bit of tsampa. He would always offer big portions of tsampa.
라마 젠다 뇨 추유 쪼고 진도스 코 좀바 요 뭐 매바 내도 대지고 벌써 좀 매바 콤보 따가
Kambutagasana?
콤보지와 가셔자는 간저 놀러 사야지와
Ale, kapse.
콤보
Kambu.
시기도 콤보
Shingidodu kambu.
나
Ale.
빠져 안 사요
Oh, okay. Di hamakoine.
된다 포춘이 지레스 타마지나 거지
Tumadabura. Okay. Yeah.
근데 좀발로 내라
Yeah.
아니 키가 아니 내가 지기도스
So the other Lama, he was not famous or well known, didn't have a big name, and he was also of very limited means. So when he was making the offering, the way that Geshe is describing it is it's like a spoon made out of a stalk. I'm wondering if it's something like a little bit like bamboo, which is a little bit hollow. But anyways, he made these kind of things that he fashioned himself into the serving implements for the offering, and he was using those to make the offering. Yeah, so it looks like just this like one very simple spoon. Idak ni re yang yore. Lama ni idak ni. Ale, idak ni keche. So these offerings were made regularly, and so the pretas, the hungry ghosts, sort of knew about them. And then one day, two of the hungry ghosts were discussing, like, which lama should we go to in order to receive the offering? Ale. And they said, don't go to the lama with the fancy offering implements, because not only is it not sure if he'll perform the offering tomorrow or not, even the offering of tsampa that you get at that time, it won't be enough to satiate your hunger. Go to the poor lama that offers with that a spoon made of branches, because even though it looks like a little bit of tsampa, if you take that into your body, you will feel satiated for a very long time. So this story was by holy beings who could really observe what was happening with these two lamas. So this is something we can really take to heart. So why would the offerings, even though they were seemingly inferior, be more capable of satiating that hunger? Because that lama's offerings was not tainted with self-concern. It was not tainted with the 8 worldly dharmas. So this also shows us very much the point about how the main practice is what we cultivate within the mind rather than the externals. Yeah. So often it is said that Lord Milarepa's offerings were the very best. His Holiness Dalai Lama often mentions that, but he had absolutely nothing to offer, but his offerings were the best. So why was this the case? Yes. So that's like an advice to us. I see one more yellow hand, but I cannot see who it belongs to. So go ahead, whoever you are.
Thank you so much. I have short question related to purification and vision. Today it was said that there in Tantra is this 7 purification. And
7 purities, yeah.
7 purities. And in the as an example was that somebody went visiting the temple in Lhasa, and he couldn't see Buddha. And after it was advised to do purification and to order to see Buddha. That's my question is more about vision and terminology. It's this kind of purification which allows to do so-called pure vision. And this is, if yes, it is correlated to vision which is like byproduct of calm abiding. And the third quality or
okay, I'm going to stop you there and translate this first part, because I think otherwise we get mixed up. Is that okay?
It's just the last point.
Okay, go ahead.
Because when we train and now I am confused. When we train in tantric practice, we have this stage of
generation stage. Yep.
Generation stage, and when we realize this vision, it's so-called stage of what?
Completion.
Completion. It's this completion. It's actually also kind of vision, but like a real vision, realization. How these three visions, this completion vision relates to pure vision, relates to
Generation vision.
Not generation is imagination, but then it's already completion.
So what are the three?
So completion, vision, how it is related to pure vision.
Yep.
How it is related to byproduct of calm abiding, and this if it is all results of purification, 7 purities.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a short answer, but I will put to your question too. Yeah, Ako-san, ko danang seria di chikdu rua, ane danang seria di perna jo kudrodu midi tongtu mason dene lama chik soso digpa shagores chaksel gores tang den so labne dene digpa den so dagne dene tong tupsong di danang re dus dene nganso kerim dang zogrim niyores kerim sena nganso sel tabne wa nganso di re samne nganso kerim topgire duas. Dene zogrim sena soso kerem sel tabiadi ngene dapo chagires. Richiwa chikres. Ane nganso danang dang zogrim dinso konso shine gi jebu rebes korongi triwa so dinsores. Ane dinso dakpa dun dang Jawa kandes chikyuresa.
Apa dido me ta te don to ke le le ro.
Tabadin tes yawachena tambo.
Sha shinigin jibo ta tari tere ane shere to dura sena to shinigin jibo res to wangine.
So the actual realization of both Dzogrim Dankerem Niga Shinegi Jebu res.
To ba to lena.
Di komasong chikan
komasong.
Yeah.
Shinigi to ba to lena.
Yeah. So with generation stage, as one embarks on the practice, one does not need a realization of calm abiding. But in order to complete the practice, to realize the generation stage, calm abiding is necessary.
But
it's not like in the sutra system where it's like you have to sit there and focus on one object until you get single-pointed concentration, and only then do you achieve calm abiding. This is not how we practice in Vajrayana. So if we practice the clarity of the appearance and the divine pride of the deity correctly in the generation stage, then the generation stage will be realized in tandem with shamatha, so calm abiding, as well as vipassana, special insight. Yeah. So the appearance of the deity, as well as its clarity and divine pride, is able to be realized in tandem with both shamatha, calm abiding, and vipassana, special insight. This is one of the uncommon features of Tantra. So pure visions are not so significant in the same way. In fact, if we practice love, compassion and bodhicitta well, we may have certain spiritual experiences that we could call pure visions. I should say that in di ningma dangdin so kepa dua consola no yagmancha. Yeah, so there may be different kinds of pure visions understood differently in different traditions, but as a beginner, we can definitely experience pure visions as was described. Yeah. But you don't really bring in the 7 purities into this picture, except that the 7 purities are just like the 7 limbs. These are the practices that we actually do to accumulate karma and purify obscurations. Nothing more than that. So it's through the accumulation of merit and the purification of negativities as expressed in either the 7 limbs or the 7 purities. Geshe explained there's not much of a difference, really. He explained what the difference was. That's the means, right, to purify and accumulate.
But anyway, it's the results of purification of the mind.
What's the result of purification of the mind?
Whatever we call pure vision or correct vision of or realization of deities.
Nganso danang seria di nganso kerim gi tokpa di sem dagya gi drebures labna digirebes. Dagya, digba daya. Yes. Yes, it's a process of mental purification. Yes. We don't say it like that. That's not the vocabulary we use, but what you're expressing is correct. It makes sense.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Because
you're welcome.
Visual, that verbal.
Yeah, no worries. We got there. I just, with the more complicated concepts, I sometimes like to break it down a bit, but I think we got you a good answer, I hope. Is there anybody else?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So Geshe says, let us end here. So we will see all of you, not next weekend, because Geshe Sherab is here. Do join for that if you're interested, by the way. But the following week, yes, we get a holiday next weekend. But do come for Geshe Sherab if you like, and we'll see you the weekend after. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.